Let's move into our other topic because this kind of goes into what we talked about a little bit pre-show of just USC not knowing things and stuff like that. But Casey, how much on the hot seat do you think Lincoln Riley is? Because you sent me this article from On3, which has Paul Feinbaum. One second, there's an ad on it. I got to close out of it.
You're good.
Paul Feinbaum says that Lincoln Riley, as a coach, is one of the most under pressure in the country. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, at least in the Big Ten, I'm trying to think big picture. Like, obviously, Billy Napier, like someone like that, is probably the most on the hot seat. Kalen DeBoer, I'd say even after year one, is on the hot seat.
Oh,
yeah. 100%. Like Deshaun Moore. Wait, sorry.
Deshaun Moore. Who are you talking about?
The Michigan coach.
Sharon
Moore. I'm sorry, it's early. Sharon Moore. Like, those are guys I think right away. For some reason, I didn't really think off the top of my head right at the beginning Lincoln Riley was. And I just think that's because me and you know that what USC is, the position USC is right now. They're in a huge deficit money-wise, the school, I mean. And also, I mean, his recruiting prowess. It's kind of like the whole, like, Andy Enfield paradox. It's like, do you get
Andy
ready?
Enfield paradox. I love that.
Like, we saw what Andy Enfield's firing happened to this program. And look, they're on their way up, but basketball-wise, for those of you that don't watch USC basketball, Andy Enfield, he brought in Isaiah Collier, Bronny, Boogie Ellis out of the transfer portal. He brought in a lot of big guys, and this team was, of course, a powerhouse. They made it to the Elite Eight, and then he had a bad year, and then everything went south. So I could see that happening if, like, Lincoln Riley did get fired, and obviously I don't think it's ever going to happen, because unless the school is so desperate to bring their football team back to relevance, and they finish so poorly, because they're in a lot of debt right now. I mean, Lincoln Riley's getting paid what, $10 million a year.
Yeah, his buyout's like $80 million or something like that. Chris, this is 100% correct. I don't like Feinbaum that much. I'll just say that. Because he is so SEC biased. It's crazy. And like last year, especially, he just kept denying that the Big Ten was a better conference than the SEC, even though it just 100% was, and it will be this year again. He is ridiculous, and he'll never admit that he's wrong, which at a certain level I respect. At the same time, I just can't stand him because of it.
Yeah, no, look, SEC bias, he's living proof of it. We'll put it that way.
But at the same time, I will say that I think very much so Riley is up there with some of the most pressure at USC, because this is not a program, other than, I guess, the last 10 years, that loses a lot. This is not a program that is known for losing. Lincoln Riley in back-to-back seasons has way underachieved. 7-5, 6-6. You can say what you want about like the teams and all that stuff that he's had. Last year's team should have been better. And I do think that there's a certain level of I saw this, I forget what person said this, but you have to lose by a little before you win by a little, before you win by a lot. That last year was you lose by a little. This year's win by a little. Next year's win by a lot. That's kind of the way I've been looking at it. At least that's my positive brain looking at it. The negative part of my brain says that I don't trust Lincoln Riley as a play caller anymore. And I've told you that.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that. Yeah. It's hard to argue with bubble screen on 3rd and 10 to Lake McCreary.
Oh my God. The third and long, the third and medium calls was bubble screen or slants, nothing in between, or like draw up the middle. Oh my God. It was infuriating. And it was so hard to watch. But I do think that Lincoln Riley, his play calling, it's fallen off a cliff. And when he doesn't have that Heisman quarterback, can you really trust the guy to get you all these points? I mean, look at his quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. And then the times where it's not really a Heisman guy, you look at Spencer Rattler, you look at Jaden Maiava, you look at Miller Moss. And I'm not going to disrespect Maiava. We've only seen like 4 games of him. But Miller Moss, I'll say his name. His teams just aren't as good.
Yeah. No, 100%. And the hard thing to think about is like when he first came here, he brought, all of his Oklahoma guys, and now it's mostly, changed at this point.
Yeah.
So the hard thing to sort of grasp is like Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat, but a guy like D'Anton Lynn or Coach Henderson, like they're not really on the hot seat.
They're on the rise. That's the thing. They've done
Yeah.
a great job at USC. They
Yeah.
Lynn. Lynn will either, because he obviously got extended, he'll either stick around for another year or two, maybe see this out if USC is good this year, or he'll get some great head coaching job at another Power 5 school. That's what I think.
100%. And I mean, Eric Henderson's one of the best recruiters in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, they just had a lot of coaches that, you look at the On3 247 rankings are so good. So it's weird to kind of grasp that. And yeah, but it looks like we have some comments here.
Yeah. I was just about to. Yeah, Chris, completely agree with you. What we were talking about kind of earlier in the show is the problem with Wingfield maybe not being able to play is I think they kind of fall back into the same situation as last year, where the offensive line isn't as good. It is a lot harder to run plays for Maiava to get him out in space where he can really hurt you, because you may have to start, I'm not going to say a true freshman, but guys who have seen the field a whole lot less than a guy like Wingfield.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, like, you bring up a good point of like, you have to put Maiava in a good position. Like Miller Moss is such a system quarterback. Like you could put him, if you give him a good O-line, like he'll probably, if Louisville's O-line this year is good, he'll be fine. He'll probably actually be a good quarterback. Yeah. Maiava's a more interesting case. So you have to give him, the opportunity to, thrive, we'll say. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I know, and I'm just looking at all of Chris's, going through Chris's. Sorry, we missed these when we were live. I think I agree with that. You need to get, we'll see how much they can actually help out in the blocking game. Obviously, Woody Marks was a fantastic pass blocker last year. We'll see about Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, Brian Jackson. I'm not too familiar with their pass blocking game. But I think if the offensive line isn't as good, then it'll be a lot harder for them to be more creative, which could fall into the same thing as last year,
Yeah, I mean, Lake McCree's not a bad blocker either. Just has to stay.
Fine. He's fine.
He's okay. I mean, it'll be interesting. What up, Angry Trojan? Welcome back. Yeah, I mean, this is a good point too, because Miller Moss is such a.
There is nothing surprising you're going to get from Miller Moss. And this is no disrespect. He is a pocket passing quarterback. What you see is what you're getting. You're not going to see anything particularly special from him. And there's some places where that works completely fine. It just wasn't going to work with Lincoln Riley. That's all it is.
He's just going to have a low ceiling, like when he goes to the NFL. Because he's going to go. But, it's just not the quarterback that coaches want.
I mean, Jeff Brom got Tyler Shuck to a second-round pick. I mean, if he can do that for him, then he can do that for Miller Moss, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're not totally wrong there.
Tyler Shuck, like I see the traits, but no. But anyways, back to Lincoln Riley. All of those are great points, because I do think that part of it has been he's been hindered by the offensive line. That one in 2022 was a pretty good offensive line, but also, Caleb Williams could make any play possible if the offensive line, let someone past them. So I think that's part of it.
And even still, with a good offensive line, he still got injured. Like you can't necessarily predict these things. And again, the defense was obviously bad. But yeah, I mean, I think we're both in agreement that Lincoln Riley should be under pressure, like under some pressure. But I think the issue is he's not going to really feel that pressure, because it doesn't feel like USC, like as a university, is really putting him much under pressure. Like they're embracing him a lot. They're paying him a lot of money. There's really no indication. Like he has a lot of leverage, I feel like, in this conversation.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you just look at our 2026 recruiting class. I mean, that right there is enough leverage to keep him around for another year. Like, in my opinion, no matter, unless he goes under 500, in my opinion, no matter what, that means he's going to stick around.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's not just that, but like Lincoln Riley's like a pretty, media friendly, not maybe to like the written media, but I'm saying like you see his face everywhere kind of guy. And it feels like USC sort of like, I won't say like shoves him down people's throats, but they sort of like, he's sort of like the face of the program and he's the coach. So I get that. But I feel like he's sort of like, like when they brought him in and like, I wasn't even at the school yet, but I obviously knew what was happening. It felt like, they were sort of trying to change the identity, like you said, back to their winning ways after Clay Helton and prior coaches that couldn't get them winning. But it just felt like, like they're forcing that sort of narrative still, even though they've had, one season truly one good season, we'll say.
One good season. We do not count the 8-5 year as a good season.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, it just feels like, I mean, the point I'm trying to make simply is he's probably under pressure, like from a fan and written media and Paul Feinbaum perspective. But like
we're the real,
the real analysts here. But I don't think that like he's like under any sort of like, hot seat really. Realistically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this kind of just echoes what you just kind of said, Casey. As you just mentioned, we're getting there. NIL, obviously, Chad Bowden. We have the new facility coming in a couple months, which it's making great progress. Walk past it all the time. I do agree that USC will give him time because you think about it, the first team that he brought in, it was kind of a phenomenon because when he inherited the Oklahoma job from Bob Stoops, it was already a great team. He inherited a 3-win team at USC. So he had to build from scratch. And I don't think he did that the first 2 years. He didn't really try to build the program up. He just kind of did a let's win really quickly thing, not a long-term thing. And that worked for the first season, Obviously, they were 1 win away from the college football playoff. But it didn't work long-term. So now the last 2 seasons, I think he's actually been trying to build up the program, make it a long-term thing, which he can stick around for. So I do agree with this. Yes. But sorry.
And jump in here. I mean, like it felt like before the 2023 season, like, oh, the recruiting is great. And then it all kind of blew up in his face. Like guys like Dorian Singer didn't pan out. Obviously, guys like Zachariah Branch he had a good freshman year, but that class was ultimately not very good with Deuce Robinson. Like obviously Malachi Nelson, it was not a good.
I mean, the 3 5-stars left.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not saying that they were that good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Malachi Nelson, Zach Branch, and Deuce Robinson. I'm not saying that, but they did leave.
And then the transfers brought up Dorian Singer, but also like Bear Alexander. Like he was just recruiting the wrong way. It feels like he's been coaching for a long time now. How long is it going to take him to like do things the right way at USC? Because like obviously Oklahoma and USC are just so different. And you can't like apply what you're doing in Oklahoma, which he was doing. For the record, he was doing. There's no secret. And so it's little like shocking that it took him 3 years to realize that. Like it's weird to me. It's weird that it would take you that long. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, no, like we've talked about, until very recently, he was still recruiting like he is in the South. He was trying to get guys from Georgia, Florida, Alabama, when guys in Southern California, which is what they've done now, actually want to come here. They really want to come here. One of the biggest takeaways I ever had from a class, Jeff Fellenzer, professor here at USC, he had, who was it? Oh my gosh, I'm now forgetting the guest. But it was someone who worked a lot with Pete Carroll and recruiting and stuff like that. And it used to be when Pete Carroll was head coach, if you are from Southern California and Pete Carroll's team, USC, offered you, you committed on the spot. That's just how it was. That's exactly how it was. That's not how it is now. And obviously there's a lot more factors, NIL, all sorts of stuff. We're a lot closer to that, though. What is it? 17 guys from Southern California in this 30-person class, is it? 31?
Yeah, I think 30 or 31.
So much better than what it was. That's so much better than trying to go get guys from the deep South to come to USC. It's such a better look at Xavier Griffin or Elijah Griffin. Which one? Xavier? Elijah?
I think it's Xavier. Right?
Xavier. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could probably talk all day about this. I do want to say though, like the fact that it took this long is the annoying part. Like, you let Oregon, like one of your, I wouldn't say your big, like, I mean, they're a rival. I'll put it that way.
Biggest recruiting rival in the Pac-12.
A recruiting rival, a team that's, rivaled you on the field pretty well too. Go out and take hand-pick play. Alabama too. Like, they're not a rival, obviously, but like they have modern-day guys starting for them. It's ridiculous that this didn't happen earlier. I don't get, also logistically too. Like, Lincoln Riley said, I'm just going to go fly to Georgia for a visit when he has some of the best football high school programs in the country in his backyard. Why did it take this long? I know he realized it now, but even like transfers too. Like, it feels like, he was trying to apply something to another. And I mean, you make a good point. Like the prowess of USC in the Pete Carroll era, and Pete Carroll, for the record, was not like a Lincoln Riley. He was, when he came in, he was not an experienced coach. He was not respected right away. And he had to earn that respect by winning. And he did. And then he got to the NFL and won a Super Bowl. It feels like Lincoln Riley's the opposite. He earned his respect early by developing a lot of good guys at Oklahoma, good quarterbacks, a lot of first-round picks. And now it's sort of like it's fading. And 2025 and 2026 are make or break years for Lincoln Riley and USC. Yeah. If they don't take advantage, if they don't make the college football playoff either or either this year or next year, they are in some serious trouble. Seriously.
Yeah.